this regular meeting of the Jessup City Council to order at 7 o'clock. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gotta put your mics on. Will the clerk please call the roll of the council?
Denny Bell,
Here.
Curtis Shears, Dave Bishop,
Here.
Craig Wright,
Here.
Todd Ralston.
We have a quorum tonight. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
This Coley. Todd? Okay, you there? Hang on. Whoops. We're approving the consent agenda right now, Todd.
Councilmember Rolfson is joining the meeting by phone. Do you have a second on that?
Yes.
Second.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. We have citizens input. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council at this time? And we'll move on to new business. The first thing we have is employee benefits. This is Adam Kearns from Hub International.
Council, Mayor, thank you so much for the time. So I'm here to introduce myself, a little bit about who I am, what I do, as well as make a recommendation to move forward with Hub as your consultant moving forward on the employee benefits. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in Fairbank, Iowa, and our office is out of Davenport. Been doing this for about 13 years, and actually had worked with the city a little bit on their benefits in the past. Actually work with a few different cities across the state. And really my goal today is, in a really brief conversation, and I'm open to any questions that you guys have, is to share a little bit about what Hub can do for you guys as a city. And when it comes to employee benefits, when you're under 50 employees, it doesn't matter if you work with Hub or if you work with Johnny Smith down the road, wherever that is, you're going to pay the same price no matter what. And so what it really comes down to is what value can your consultant bring for you? And really, truthfully, when it comes down to the city here, it comes on a couple of key items. Number one, are they getting back to you in a timely manner? And are they looking out for your employees and the city's best interests, at heart? Okay. And I do have just a quick little bit about who Hub is and a little bit about what we do. And I'm going to go through this very, very quickly because some of these items could apply, but most likely, due to your size, won't. And so if you just go through this, a little bit about Hub. So Hub is a larger consulting firm. We're based out of Chicago. And what Hub does is they acquire agencies. Last year they acquired 72. The greatest thing about Hub is, so they purchased our office in 2014 out of Davenport. And we still kind of operate out as our own profit center. So you have the fear of, okay, this is out of Chicago, this is a little city of Jessup, Iowa. Are we just going to be a number out there and no one's going to take care of us? the greatest thing is I get to pick my clients and pick who I want to work with. And so obviously I approached Coley and I wanted to work with you guys. And so it's not like we're going to be forced to say, okay, here's the 800 number, call number, and who you contact. You still get to contact me as the employees if they have questions, as well as anyone can contact a dedicated staff person that we have in our office that you guys can call. The council can call, employees can call if they have claims questions, enrollment questions, anything related, okay? And so you have a dedicated team that will work on your behalf, okay? And then I'm going to skip all the way down to communications. We have a team that will put together communication packets for your employees. I actually could come down and present to the employees, hey, this is what you offer to your staff, your employees. And then also what we find is a lot of times the spouses are asking questions but not getting information, and so this is just a nice handout that the employees can take anywhere with them to be able to say, hey, this is what benefits we offer. And also a lot of folks use it during new hiring process as well, okay? Compliance, I won't get into a lot of details, but we do have attorneys on staff that will help when it comes to compliance for ERISA, IRS guidelines, as well as the lovely Affordable Care Act. Okay, there's a lot of things that we just need to make sure our clients are being taken care of, so that way we're not hit with any penalties or fines. Okay. And then on the last page, just a few other services. And again, I'm not going to hit every single one of those, but a couple things I think could be beneficial for the city. We have HR consulting, so if there's any needs when it comes to HR policies, procedures, we have a lot of resources that you guys can utilize to help with that process. And then all the way down, you can kind of see technology. If you ever want to get into offering online payroll, online enrollment, we have a person that all they do is they consult for our clients to help them align with the best solutions that are out there. And really, there's a lot of information here. I want to keep it brief, but my goal is to really help the city. And so my recommendation, if you guys are interested, and I'll open up to questions that you guys can ask, that you would move forward with Hub as your consultant versus where you guys are currently at right now. And again, I was really brief. Any questions for myself?
So if we change consultants, the employees would keep their same health plan they have now.
Yeah, so nothing changes. Basically, you kind of swap in who you're working with now, and then you would replace myself. And what that process looks like is you sign a letter, and truthfully, it's just basically saying, hey, we're going to fire our current consultant, and we're going to hire Hub, and we would, you guys have United Healthcare on the health insurance, and then you have Hartford that does some life, and that's what we would take over. And it would just be, you'd sign the letter, put on your letterhead, we send it off to the insurance companies, and they fire them and hire us instead. Nothing changes, no benefits changes, no pricing changing, it's just who you work with. So other questions for myself? All right.
So, let me just throw this out here, and I don't want to say anything negative about where we're at now, but as the person that's on the front line working with our insurance on a day-to-day basis, my recommendation would be to switch. We've been with our current administrator for health insurance for quite a while now, and our services, I think, are lacking a little bit. So, we're with True North right now.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we've been with them for quite a while.
yeah. So,
Where's True North based out of?
Cedar Rapids.
And again, where are you from?
So I live in New London, but based out of Davenport.
Okay.
So I would like to switch myself, with the one working with them on a day-to-day basis, so. And as far as the renewal goes, that's what's in your packet, as far as the health insurance. And that's got the renewal on there, and it's very close to renewing to the same plan we have. The out-of-pocket maximum goes up a little bit for the new plan, and then the copay for going to a specialist goes up a little bit. but overall, it's only going up 2.8% from last year. The premiums are. So that's pretty darn low nowadays as far as an increase for a rate, for a premium.
Adam, what other communities do you service right now?
So I work with the city of Fairbank.
Yep.
And the city of Goss.
So I would be asking for kind of a twofold thing tonight, to switch agents and then obviously the renewal for the health insurance plan. It's effective.
companies out there we get quotes from as well.
Do you want me to address that? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Do you want me to?
please, cause
Give them to hear
it
you,
goes in
probably
the,
have to,
yeah.
So, like Coley said, you guys got a 2.8% increase, and since I'm not your current agent, I can't see your information unless it's shared with me, and nothing has been shared. So I just know of, hey, you got a 2.8% increase, and the reason why the plans are changing is because the way the Affordable Care Act was structured, it has to meet a certain actuarial value. And that's why they have to keep raising deductibles or raising the out-of-pocket maximums to get it more into line with that value. But if someone were to tell me you got a 2.8% increase, I'd be ecstatic. I delivered a 70% increase this year, to give you an idea. There are other options that are out there. The unfortunate thing is Wellmark is not as competitive on more your traditional plans. So when he said, hey, we had our copay went up, that means it's a more traditional plan and not an HSA plan, not to get into too much of the weeds. But Wellmark's best plan that they have is a $2,000 deductible. And so obviously if you're comparing a $2,000 deductible to a $1,000 deductible, it should be a little bit more reasonable with premiums. But their plans, the deductibles just keep going up. If I'm comparing apples to apples, United Healthcare is usually going to be a little bit better than Wellmark. On the other side, you can go through an application process where every employee fills out a health application, and it's all based on your health conditions. I don't know if that would be beneficial or not, if it would work for the city or not. But that does open up two other avenues. One is the United Healthcare Company, and another one is called National General. It's a little bit different network, obviously, than United Healthcare. But that's a whole nother conversation that could be had. So
We actually did the application where we had each employee fill out that application. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but we were denied doing that when we had all the employees fill out the individual applications.
Denied by whom?
The carrier. For,
North?
no, not the agent, the insurance company that we were filling it out for is the one that denied it. No, True North was the one that had us fill out the applications, and then
Right.
the carrier, the insurance carrier denied it.
So the question still is, in my mind, is there's other companies out there besides Chubb, should we be getting quotes and things from 2 or 3 other companies, wouldn't that be the prudent thing to do, or not?
As far as an agent or an insurance company? Like United, you're talking United Healthcare or the agent?
So, I mean, what's up for renewal right now?
The health insurance is up for renewal. And that doesn't matter what agent we go through, it's gonna be the same plan if we go with United Healthcare. And the same premiums. The agent doesn't make any difference on what the premiums are. The agent is just there to take care of you throughout the year, when you have issues that come up.
So True North,
That's what
Coley,
this gentleman's doing.
Yes, he's taking care of us throughout the year when we have issues.
Coley, does True North offer the same services that Hub offers?
I am not for sure, I very rarely talk to True North.
Okay.
How
So-
time sensitive is the renewal?
We have to, the renewal is for April 1st, but we have to have it done before March 1st, basically, because our insurance premiums, we always pay a month in advance. And so we need to change the premiums before the first payroll in March. to get the correct premiums out of people's payroll checks.
So if the council was interested in switching our consultant to Hub, Adam could maybe come back with some prices for other plans for our next meeting, would that be possible?
Yes, I'd be happy to do it. I will say if you go down the application route, typical timeline is it's gonna take probably a week or two-ish. It depends on how forceful the city is on forcing the employees to complete these applications. Because basically what it is, it's a 4 or 5 page, depending on the application process, where they ask in the last 5 years, have you had any of these conditions? And they're gonna list probably 30 or 40 different conditions. And then you have to go and fill out, okay, how were you diagnosed? What medicines are you taking? I mean, basically, in the last 5 years, you're gonna have to give them your whole health history. And that's gonna take some time. And employees here, they're not insurance experts, so they're gonna miss information. It's just a guarantee. So then, if you take 2 weeks to do that, we're gonna then scrub them, then come back to you, and then gather that information. Then it's gonna take another 2-ish weeks for the insurance companies to give you a final rate. So if you go down the application process, it's gonna probably be a month to month and a half conservative. You know, obviously you can compress that quite a bit depending on how fast you would complete the applications. On the other side, really the only other option you really have is Wellmark. And again, that's gonna be that $2,000 deductible. And we can get quotes, and that one's fairly easy for us to run numbers. We just need your guys' information, name, date of birth, zip code, things of that nature. But again, I'll reiterate, it doesn't matter for pricing or premium. If you go to 6 different agents and you go to Wellmark, we're literally all gonna bring you the same plan, the same price. So that's why I would prefer being the agent. Obviously, it's a little biased, of course, and then let us do the legwork for you.
And also, I think if we significantly change our plan, I believe that has to have union approval. Is that, I think, the way the contract's written now?
Yes.
So I guess I'd look for some input from the council. Do you wanna look at other plans, or are you happy with the 2.8% increase?
But we went through that quite a bit last year. We spent,
Last year was a 5.5%.
yeah,
I went back and looked.
yeah,
It's
that was
5.5%.
the best we could get last year.
Yeah,
I didn't remember exactly what the percentage, but it was.
yeah. I went back and looked. It was 5.5% was our
5.5%.
increase last year. So,
I guess my question is, and I think I know the answer, but as we go forward, like when we go in, if we decide to go ahead and do this, take 2.8 and go along this year, then when this time comes around next year, you'll get involved in checking rates and that kind of thing. That's part of your deal?
Yes, I hope that we have a conversation, Coley and I have a conversation before this, where
Correct.
we would be involved, hopefully a little more than maybe what you're seeing now.
Yeah.
But yes, I would be able to then say, okay, at that time, if you would like to go out and get, different bids, we would start that process and come back with results for you.
'Cause I would guess, did this rate come from True North?
no,
They didn't do anything.
I have not heard from
They
True.
should have been in contact with you.
I have not heard from True.
And.
This
so,
came directly from United Healthcare.
Yeah, so True North, we're paying them, they're doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
they're collecting a percentage of the premium of what you're paying, and
Correct.
they're not doing anything.
they're not doing anything, well. Well, I would be are you looking for a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I would make a motion that we change from True North to Hub.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Alright,
Should that be a roll call?
You can do a roll call, you can do a roll call. I was gonna suggest at your next meeting, you go ahead and do a resolution authorizing entry into contract with Hub. And that way, the motion is great, cause it gives you the direction of what you're doing, you can go ahead and do the roll call now, and then have an agenda item for a resolution approving entry of the contract into Hub. That can also serve as the notice that you need, right? You could include a copy of the resolution in the letter to True North.
Yeah, we can. In fact, what the process is the letter, we would send it to United Healthcare and to Hartford, excuse me, and then they actually would notify True North. I would recommend that the city notify True North prior to, sending a letter, just as a courtesy, so.
Wanna do a roll call?
Rolfson,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Bell.
Yes.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you guys.
And then does someone wanna make a motion on the insurance renewal at this time?
I'll make that motion
To renew with United Healthcare,
for the 2.8%.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
That's not on the agenda, can we do that?
It says health insurance renewal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's fine, because it's vague enough, you have employee benefits / health insurance renewal, I could argue that employee benefits is the same as HUD as the agent, so, yeah.
So we have a motion and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have approved ambulance volunteer. Haley Armstrong has applied to be an ambulance volunteer. Would someone wanna make a motion to accept that application?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. And then Tony Lang is here to give us an update on the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, Tony Lang here, CEO of Heartland Technology, current president of the Jessup Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to kind of stop and had a nice little chat with Chris recently, and I just wanted to stop and let you guys know kind of what's going on at the chamber right now. And a little update there, and also kind of do a little invitation, but kind of for the update first. So back in September, the chamber, we had met, previous president Todd kind of stepped down, and I was the sucker in the room to step forward to move forward. So why I'm here is the chamber kind of took that moment to step back and say, what are we? What is our purpose? What are we doing, and what can we do different or better in the future? So I'm happy to say our attendance, our monthly meetings has just only increased every month. I think we're up to at least 20 people a month showing up every first Wednesday of the month over the noon hour over at Farmers State Bank. And one of the first things we did was strip it down and say, what is the mission? And so we've had some various subcommittees. We've come up with a new mission statement. We're working on what are those action points and how are we going to move forward. What are we going to do for local businesses, future businesses, and just the community in general. And so obviously we're talking about a lot of things that obviously also involves the city. And so one thing that we talked at our last meeting was, I think it would be very positive at some point here in the spring. We have new members of the council, a new mayor, just everybody, if we could set up a session where either you come to one of our meetings or we can come to you guys. I think what's one of the healthiest things we did early in that mission statement was we all sat down and filled out some pretty intense surveys about our businesses, the community businesses, what are we doing, what are our challenges, what are things that we're looking to do in the future. and it was fascinating. I mean, some of our oldest chamber members, I'll pick on Merritt Jones, my neighbor over there, and it was great because there was, you know, I frequent him as a patron, but he had services and things that I didn't even know about, and so we kind of had to talk about some of those things and challenges that are in his business, and it's across the board. The funny thing was, whether you're a dentist or technology company, whatever it may be, a lot of the common problems are the same, and so I think it would be healthy to someday just sit down, because I know one of our biggest things right now is we're in the midst of redoing our marketing and a website presence. You know, is that something that we want to work with the city? You know, looking at different chamber websites across the state of Iowa. They're separate from the city, but you know, how can we tie each other in some different ways and work together? And not just with maybe a website, but also, you know, our focus on community events, but also events for local businesses, local professionals. We have a lot of fun events planned for 2020 that I'm working on. So yeah, like I said, the main reason I wanted to come here was give you guys a little bit of an update, but also kind of extend that olive branch where I'd love to set up a time we could all just meet. My chamber members were very excited to do something like that. Like we did say, you know, we don't want to turn this into a complaint session. That's not what it's about. It's kind of sharing where are we at as different businesses in a chamber as a whole, and how can we work together. So eager to do something with you guys in the near future. So thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Any questions from the council for Tony while he's here?
I think it'd be a good idea.
And I've never been in private business, but I would think businesses outside of Jessup, if they're thinking on moving or relocating, if they see that the city and the chamber are working hand in hand together, I think that'd be a plus for them to think, let's go over there and check that out.
Yeah.
And I really think that would be a plus, and I'm all for it.
A common example that's happening right now, inadvertently, that we're very happy about, is we're having members that aren't even part of our community reach out to us via social media or a friend and saying, hey, we're thinking of bringing this business to Jessup. I get it, it's not going to have 500 employees, but a business to Jessup is always a positive thing. And so that's something, yes, we can help with other businesses, help mentor, or help them with paperwork or different things, but also helping them point towards the city is also a very positive thing if they are looking to, you know, who knows, potentially acquire a building or do some kind of build out. Those are all things that if we have friendly with the city or one of your guys' subcommittees we can work closely with, just the more organized we are, the better. So I know one of our biggest things is like George Lake's a resource, so we didn't want to just forward the person to George Lake. We wanted to be able to help them with our own local people, and also reach out to local resources to help these people out. So yeah, it's been kind of there's been at least over a half dozen in the last 3 months that were unexpected. So that's just been positive. So.
Cool.
Okay, how can we do that as multiple of us would go to that or that?
That's my question.
Yeah, don't we get into some,
It would probably be best to set that up as a council work session with the chamber.
Yeah.
And we'd have to just notice it like a meeting.
However you guys want to do it.
Yeah, we'll get together with you and try and get something scheduled here this spring. Next, we have a resolution approving a merchant agreement with GovPayNet LLC. Coley, do you wanna explain this?
So I had this GovPayNet come to me to offer the service of the city being able to take debit and credit cards to pay residents' bills. So when they walk in the door, they can hand me their debit or credit card and I can pay their bill right off of that. So this does not actually cost the city any money at all. They supply the card reader, the swiper thing, and then all the fees that are paid from this are paid from the resident who's paying their bill. So most of the residents are gonna pay 2.65% to be added on top of their bill, unless there's a minimum of $1. So if their bill's only like $30 and it only ends up being like 80 cents, there's a minimum of $1 fee that goes with it. So we would obviously inform, when we're swiping their card that there is a percentage that will be added onto it. to pay through that method.
Can you put it on the bill? Is there a part on the bill that you can write it in on the bill that just says, if coming to the city hall to pay by credit card, a fee will be charged? No?
No,
Okay. That was the only thing I was gonna ask, is if there was room on the bill somewhere to put that in there.
my water bill's pretty
It's
tight
already-
right now.
It's too, okay.
Yeah.
And
And it's
you might
not
just
just,
You might just wanna have a sign then. I would just put a
yeah,
sign.
definitely, yeah. We'll put a sign up on the counter up there that
Yeah.
says if you use it, there'll be a percentage added to it.
Yep.
But obviously, the water bills are the main one that's gonna be used for, but this can be used for any bill that the person's coming in to pay, whether it's a parking ticket or a building permit, golf cart fee, any fee that they're coming in to pay, they can use their debit or credit card to pay for. So, like I said, it doesn't cost the city anything, the fees are all paid by the residents. So,
We had
And-
people ask for that before.
yes, we have lots of people come in the door and, they just hand me their credit card. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, but I can't accept that, I will need to cash or check. And so they have to leave and go find a credit or a debit machine and then come back. So, I have, checked out other cities that use this same company, and I haven't found one negative comment yet. The city of Dunkerton uses it, and the city of Fairbank uses it, and that's just two as an example. There's lots of cities out there in Iowa that use this service, and like I said, I haven't heard one negative comment yet. So,
I checked with Dunkerton, the clerk there told me that they have 60 to 70 people a month that pay by credit card now. It's pretty popular.
Yeah.
They're probably all under 35.
Right.
probably.
I did review the agreement and it is true that you do not have a cost.
Mhm.
And then there's also the possibility we can put a link on our website where people can pay.
Yeah, so it's not
Yeah.
just people walking in the front door, you can go on our website and pay. Or there's an 800 number that you can call, and get somebody to help you. And then if you do that and you actually talk to a live person, there's an extra fee to go with that they pay, just because you're talking to a live person. So there's multiple ways that people can use their debit and credit cards to pay their bill with us. It's not just people walking in the front door. You can be sitting at home in your couch and do it. So,
Any questions on that? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution approving merchant agreement with GovPayNet LLC?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Will clerk call the roll?
Bell,
Yes.
Rolfson,
Yep.
Bishop,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
The resolution passes. Next, we have a resolution setting policy for cost of repairs or purchase of equipment. I wanted to bring this up to the council. Right now, anything over $500, the department head has to get a purchase order signed by the mayor. I would like to see that increased a little bit, but then also a second part of that, there's no limit specified in our current resolution of where they have to get council approval. So I'd like to add a second part to that over X dollars, they need council approval and it can't be a purchase order signed by the mayor.
So what are you thinking?
I knew that
I would
question
like
was coming.
$1,000 for a purchase order. And then $1,000, anything $1,000 or more, we need a purchase order. And then I was thinking around 5,000 to 7,500 to go to city council.
How often are they hitting $5,000 in the spur of the moment? I mean, is it happening? I mean,
I've seen where they're taking stuff a lot less than $5,000 to the council, but
yeah.
I guess I'm not sure what the most anybody's put on a purchase order. It's just that it's never been specified before.
Right, yeah.
Dave, you probably signed more purchase orders than me.
Yeah,
It's the biggest one you
it
ever signed.
hasn't been that big. I know, it's pretty rare, well, it's often rare, you know, to something that big.
I personally think your second number's awful high.
7,500.
Yeah.
That was kind of my thought too. I was thinking more of maybe the 5.
Just leave it at 5 and 5 and above.
Is everybody okay with 1,000 for a purchase order? Would someone wanna make a motion for $1,000 for purchase order and 5,000 for city council approval?
Oh,
We go 2,500 for council approval.
Are you making that a motion?
Yeah, I'd make the motion 1,000, 2,500.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
a second.
Any more discussion? That's a roll call vote.
Bishop,
Yes,
Bell,
Yes.
Rolfson,
Yep.
Wright.
Yes.
The resolution passes. Next, we have a resolution designating streets for the operation of snowmobiles.
Oh, you missed one.
No, you got your SIP lining project.
Oh. We have a resolution approving payment for Northeast Area CIPP lining project. This is what HydroClean's doing up on the northeast part of town.
After all of those lovely pictures. Those look great.
Yeah, no video tonight.
There's just a couple things I wanna update the council on with this. All the lining has been completed that they're able to do. There's 2 blocks where there were some offsets where they made connections with the construction project and they weren't able to get the liner through that. So we're actually short about 700 feet of lining, which is gonna be a deduct of 15,000 on the project. But then when they were cleaning it, there was a lot of infiltration scale on the pipes and they were really dirty. So the engineer had estimated 350 feet for heavy cleaning, and after a lot of back and forth with the contractor, we've concluded that the whole thing would qualify for heavy cleaning. So that's about a $10,000 increase. But between the two, it'll still be 5,000 less than what the engineer's estimate was. We just,
And we can't go back and do anything with the offsets, the 2 blocks that have the issue?
we can at this time, it's probably they're gonna have to be dug up, I think, to correct that. There's no way to do it without digging it, and we can't do that this time.
Yeah, I think that's where the main issue always has been.
When I looked at, I think that that rubber gasket's still there, it's a flexible rubber gasket, so it stretches. I don't think that there's a lot of infiltration coming from that joint, it's offset and you can't get equipment through it to clean it or do the liner. But there will be potentially 2 more blocks, after we get that corrected, we might wanna come back in, probably on a different project and get those lined as well.
Yeah.
Would someone wanna make a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second?
So how much is it, 43 or 101?
$111,771.21 or 21
I'll
cents.
second it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh,
Aye.
sorry, that's a roll call vote.
Okay.
Bell,
Yes.
Rolfson,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes,
Resolution passes. Now we have a resolution designating streets for the operation of snowmobiles. Do you have that map up, man? No, probably not.
No, I don't.
I think, well, there was a map in your council packets.
So what are we doing here?
right now, our ordinance says that snowmobiles aren't allowed on streets unless designated by the city council. And the city council has previously designated First Street from Douglas Street to North Street as a snowmobile route, and then Young Street from First Street to Main Street. And I think up to 1 or 2 years ago, the Snowmobile Association used to have a route that ran in the railroad ditch from where they do the snowmobile drags and tractor pull up to the corner by Main and Young Street. But then the railroad said that they couldn't run that route anymore, so they haven't had it for, it's been a year or two?
2 years, I think
2 years. Now they have a route across private property parallel to the ditch, and that's gonna take them up to Main Street, but technically they can't go that half a block on Main Street. So one thing that we wanna do is add Main Street from Young Street to Douglas Street as a designated street. And then there's also been some question about resident, or snowmobilers being able to go from their residence to the trail and from the trail back to their residence.
Instead of trailering them and.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was another part of this that we could include with the street designation, if the council's interested.
And
Craig,
there's
you have
one
anything
more
to
part,
add?
there's one more part to that is the permission to use the park. I know the owners of Legacies have asked if we could park in the park, and I know that's in the wording, we just need permission. And in 2005, it was passed by the city council to give permission for snowmobiles to use the parks. I don't know if that expired. In my extensive research, I never saw where it was voted to take that away from us, from the club. But in 2005, it was approved by the council. Or if we need to redo that again, I you know.
I know the streets part of it, as far as going across Main Street, the railroad tracks, and then going from the residence to the route, that would be part of the resolution
Okay.
that's on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
There's no resolution though.
Where is it? I was confused by that same thing, I was looking for, the old resolutions in there.
Yeah, the old resolution I put in the council packet,
Right,
Right.
but at the point of putting the packet together, we didn't update the new resolution because we wanted council input first.
so what you're
Because
proposing,
we're not approving new resolution yet until we sit and discuss it.
Correct. Yeah.
That resolution will come at a later meeting.
Well, you could make a
No.
motion to amend that resolution, you just need to put the wording that you wanna add to it.
Yeah, so the idea tonight is we're amending the resolution that's in the council packet. So if you wanna go across Main Street, you know, we can put that in the resolution. If you wanna go from residence to route and route back to residence, we can put that in the resolution and we would have a new resolution, amending the current resolution. We can still all approve that tonight. The other part of parking at Legacies in the park,
That's probably a different topic,
yeah, that's not part of this resolution.
Okay.
cause this resolution just pertains to streets.
Right. correct.
So what we do with that, at this point, I'm not sure. That's what I would leave to the attorney.
Do we have an ordinance that discusses where parking of those can occur? Probably not, or does it? I don't remember.
The ordinance says you're not allowed to park in parks without
Okay.
permission from the city.
I think that's any city property
Right,
without permission.
Yeah.
so you'd have to amend that ordinance if you wanna change that.
Okay.
Well,
Even though it was, I mean, this is the minutes from 2005 when it was.
But I don't think you wanna amend the ordinance.
I mean, to me, for that, we've had approval. I mean, when they did that in 2005, we used the park as our trail, and it was never resetted by the city, and there's no,
Is it possible that the ordinance was passed after this in 2005 and this didn't catch this? You see my question?
the ordinance allows it if they have council approval.
Right, I think what he's saying is that they previously, back in
That
'05,
gave him council.
gave them council approval to park at the east end by the Park Pavilion.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that they might have done this in '05, and then we updated our ordinances and didn't put an exception in there to be able to park on the east end by the Park Pavilion. I'm guessing, I'm just trying to put two and two together, but that's my best guess of what might have happened.
So we can do that.
So in theory, right now, we have an ordinance that's in conflict with a resolution.
A motion. Was that a resolution or a motion?
It says resolved, so I would call that a resolution. Yeah, at least back in '05, they said, sure, you can park in the east end by the Park Pavilion, but we now have ordinances that say you can't. But
But I
we
think-
haven't written a ticket to anybody for parking improperly, so it's okay that we're somewhat in conflict right now, I guess.
if that still stands, I think that we're in compliance with our ordinance, cause the ordinance says they can't operate on city property without city council permission.
Oh,
So if they
okay,
have council permission and that's never been changed,
so they, right, then they
It's
did,
still
they
staying.
currently do have council permission then to park on the east
Yeah.
end by the Park Pavilion, if that's the way the ordinance is worded that way, sure.
I-
But
That's the way the ordinance is worded.
I could buy
You
that.
need council permission to park on the park, in a park. And you're saying that says we have council permission.
Yeah, it
That's
does.
what he, yep, from February of '05. To allow snowmobiles to travel through the land of Corn Park and park at the east end by the Park Pavilion. So, sorry, we get off topic, you still need to talk about streets.
yeah. Josh, do you have any concerns with this? Either part?
I think it'd be advantageous for the machine operators, it'd be better for them if instead of loading up on a trailer, going 3, 4, 5 blocks, unloading and riding, it just makes sense just to hop on your sled and take off on a designated area to your trail and, it just makes sense to me to do it that way.
And that's the same thing we had, for the ATVs and UTVs, we had that where, when we had the route, we amended that so you can go from residence to route.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of
And
following
I
that same
think we should just
line.
follow that same,
And that was prior to
Deal.
opening up the whole city, to the ATV, UTVs, which it is now, but that's what it was for them.
Right.
And that's what this is kind of asking for, I guess.
I guess my thought is it's the middle of January, you got probably 2 months at best of snowmobile season. We could try it and see how it works, if there's problems with it, we can change the resolution again and not allow it next year.
So basically, we need a motion to change the route initially. We need to do this.
We need a motion, if you wanna do both parts, there's a motion to add Main Street between Young Street and Douglas Street. And then the second part would be to allow snowmobiles on the street from residence to trail,
Okay.
and from
Trail
trail
I
to
wasn't
residence.
sure we could do that tonight. I wanted to make sure I was.
Yeah.
That would still all fall underneath operation
Okay.
on city streets.
And we could do that amending one resolution
ending that one.
that's in your packet.
Okay. I would make that motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? That'll be a roll call vote.
Bishop,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Rolfson,
Yep.
Wright.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Next, we have an engineering agreement for First Street Water Main Storm Sewer Project. This would be with MSA in the amount of $26,500. That would be both design and construction inspection services. But this had come out of that project list from the previous council and it was pretty highly rated. Right now, we have only 2 water mains that go underneath the railroad tracks. There's a 12-inch on 6th Street and then a 4-inch on 10th Street. When they were doing the 6th Street curb and gutter project, they're doing some water main work there and they wanted to shut down that 12-inch on 6th Street. But if they did that, then the whole south half of the town, both of our wells in the tower on the north side, would be fed through one 4-inch water main. So then they end up having to do a change order and doing all that work live under pressure because they couldn't shut down that main. So it's pretty important that we get another, 12-inch big main underneath the railroad tracks so we don't have that problem. And then part of this is Heartland Technology also needs to do a boring underneath the railroad tracks. So they wanna piggyback on our project and then they'll pick up some of this engineering costs too. But that way we only have to get one permit and through the railroad, it's a pretty tedious process.
Is there a separate agreement for Heartland contributing to the cost? Cause I didn't remember seeing that in the contract itself.
No,
Okay.
the cities would take out the contract and we
Right.
would negotiate that part with Heartland.
Okay. And you guys have, this is a business that's in town, so you have no concern about them upholding their end of that deal without
I
anything
don't.
in writing, I assume?
Sure wouldn't think so.
Okay. And just to supplement what the mayor said, I received this late last week and reviewed it, and there were two big glaring things that I let Mike know. Number one, MSA did not identify what their professional liability insurance was. And two, they attached their boilerplate general terms and conditions on the last 2 pages, which I have a lot of dissatisfaction with because they always limit their liability, and I complain about it every time. And on this one, they specifically limited their liability to say that it shall not exceed the percentage share that MSA's negligence bears to the total negligence of owner MSA, blah, blah, blah. I would just like a line added to this that says MSA acknowledges that if they're deemed solely negligent, responsible for any damages that their professional liability insurance covers. I don't, sorry, I love engineers and I hate engineers at the same time. They always limit their liability in these things and they never agree to indemnify to the full cost of the project. This is a hot topic among city attorneys right now because we're all quite frustrated with the fact that they attach these boilerplate things and then refuse to make any amendments to them and acknowledge that they could actually do something wrong. So it's not that I don't want you to approve this and go forward with the project, but I would probably recommend that it's subject to the city attorney getting the one sentence in the general terms and conditions that she wants. And then,
Mike did follow up, they have $5 million
They have $5 million on it, yeah.
professional liability limit.
yeah, I'm not worried about their amount that they're carrying on the project. I'm worried about them limiting themselves to their percentage, and I don't like that at all.
So if the council wants to approve this, we would approve it pending they make the changes in language that
That I want.
Heather just recommended.
Will they agree to that?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
always
They
do.
will, okay.
They generally
They know.
do,
Okay.
especially Jake I've worked with before,
Yeah, okay.
and yeah, I don't think it'll be difficult for me to get him to fix that.
Would someone wanna make a motion to approve that engineering agreement?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? That's a roll call vote?
Bishop,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Rolfson,
Yep.
Bell.
Yes.
Next we have city attorney attendance at council meetings. I know when we had moved our meetings to Monday nights, Heather had mentioned that she potentially has some conflicts and I think there was maybe a little bit of confusion on that. Can you explain
Sure,
which other cities you?
Hey, Heather,
yeah,
put my mic on, would you?
but my mic is on me.
Then talk into it better.
Okay, it was right on the lapel of my coat. Is this better? Can you hear that?
Yeah, I got you now, thanks.
Okay, all right. So, first, let me say that I'm absolutely interested in continuing to work and serve the city of Jessup. I've enjoyed this work and want to continue to do so. I have Raymond, Tripola, and Clarksville on the first and third Mondays of the month. What I indicated to the mayor 2 weeks ago was that I felt pretty confident that I could always attend your first Monday of the month. It's the third Monday that would get a little bit hairier because I'd be coming from Raymond. And then the other thing I would add would be there may be times where Clarksville or Tripola says we have something hairy going on and we really need you here on the first Monday. So if this council is aware that there could be times where I could say, I've got a crisis going on in Tripola and they really need me on the first Monday, and you all are okay with that occasionally happening, then I don't see any huge problem. I do think that there's a benefit in being present at meetings. It keeps me in tune with what's going on. It keeps me in tune with the projects you have going on. It keeps me in the loop, so to speak. So when you don't attend for a while, then you kind of get out of the loop and you don't know what's going on or what hot button issues are there. So I don't generally encourage all my cities for me to never come, but I do try to, find kind of a happy medium, because a lot of them say, well, we don't necessarily want you sitting here doing nothing either, and I totally get that. So most of them are able to look at their agendas and go, there isn't anything that's a huge crisis tonight, we don't need you here. I especially appreciate that input when it's nasty outside. I don't prefer to be driving at 8:30 at night in a blizzard, and if I can avoid it, I will avoid it every day and twice on Sunday. So if that's the background with the attendance, and with that, any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to add to that. I don't have anybody, Todd had asked in an email today if I have anybody else in the office that can attend. I do not. I'm a sole practitioner at this juncture, and unless there's a law student that's going to graduate in May who wants to live permanently in the Cedar Valley, which I'm always going to be open to try and finding, but they're fewer and far between to find law students that don't want to live in Des Moines, because that's the mecca of the universe and that's where they all want to be. So is there a hint of sarcasm there? Yes, there is.
But it's not required you're not required to be here, you just.
Correct. I think your ordinance specifically says the city attorney shall attend at the mayor's request, and the Iowa League of Cities generally encourages city attorneys to be present at meetings. But there's not a code section that requires it.
So that was kind of the second part of why I put this on there.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some meetings where there's really very little on the agenda, and it's probably really not worth Heather's time to come here for those, so I wanted some direction from the council. Are you okay if it's a short agenda to say, Heather, you don't need to come to this
How about we
meeting?
just go to one meeting a month ourselves? I might have said that once or twice before.
Is that every 6 months, is that what you said?
Those second meetings that are 10 minutes are kind of a waste of time.
Well, I think the mayor and Heather just need to communicate ahead of time, and, I think we need to try and work around it as best we can.
The only other thing I'd add too is that it's a rare occasion where there's something on your agenda that is such a crisis that you couldn't table it or move
That's
it
what I was gonna ask.
to another meeting.
If we could go into a discussion where we say, well, we just hit table it.
Right. I mean, if I'm not here on a particular evening and you all are feeling, your gut is sending you a message that, I don't know that this is the right way to do this. It's a rare thing that you couldn't just table it and then circle back around with me and have the mayor call me the next day and go, this is where our struggle was, so we chose to table it. It's the opposite. I can't fix it, right? If you do something that you can't tread back on, then I can't undo it. But if you hold off on making something big, I can generally always analyze and change and go from there.
And I don't know that we really need a motion on that. It's just
No, I would
for
like,
discussion tonight.
yeah, I would like feedback from you all if you're okay with that. I don't wanna,
Well, I think it's perfectly okay to do it that way, if we really need you here, the mayor can call you and say, we tabled this because something's just a little hinky here, can you come in a couple weeks and, or to the next meeting or something? I think that would work fine,
so, along the lines of, unless again, you look at the first meeting of the month and there's nothing on it, I guess for my planning purposes, I'm gonna always plan to attend the first Monday of the month. And in general, the mayor can let me know if the third one you want me to, cause again, Raymond has accommodated this actually since your last meeting. Raymond moved their agenda to where items that I would address are at the top of the agenda. So I could leave Raymond by 6:30 and still make it here most of the time on your third Mondays. So they were willing to accommodate that in order to make that work. So I could still come on third Mondays, it might just be that I might not get here till 5 or 10 after or something. But again, if the mayor wants to look at the agenda and go, I really don't think there's anything there that we need you to come to, I'm perfectly fine going, sure, I'll take a night off and go home, believe me, one less meeting a month isn't gonna hurt my feelings. So if you all are okay with that, then we can do that way.
Does anybody object to that?
I don't, I'm fine.
And if at any point you start to not like it, please tell me. If at some point, I'd rather be told this isn't working out, you're not here enough, than, summarily get an email that we're completely unhappy. I would rather be communicated with versus the opposite. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And actually, the mayor gave me permission to leave when you hit the budget work session part, so with your pleasure, I will bail at 8:02 at this point unless there's something super critical that you can think of.
So now you come late and leave early. That's
Right,
all.
exactly, right, that's, I seem to have, in my old age, I have managed to control my schedule much better. Yeah.
So we're down to budget. Exciting. It's the fun part. Everybody's smiling.
Take advantage of it.
Thanks, sir.
So I think Chris is looking for something. I'll start off with talking. I think Chris has a PowerPoint presentation that he wants to go through. But I put some stuff in the council packet as far as the budget goes. And I did email all the council members, all the revenues as one attachment and all the expenses as another attachment. So you got all them last Friday separate of the council packet just because it was so much. So then I kind of compiled all of that data into these top 3 spreadsheets that's in your council packet. So the first spreadsheet that you have, it goes through all the departments and lists what the current budget is that we're in currently right now today, and then when I got all the department heads' budgets back, compiled what the new budget is, and then the next column is the difference, and that's just how much the budget increased or decreased from last year to this year, and then that percentage of change that it went up or went down. So that just kind of the end column there, the percentage change, kind of tells you, okay, like the police department, the very first one, they went up 2.33%. So, and if you scroll down there, you can see a lot of them are in that same range. There's only one excellent department, which is the clerk, obviously. They went down 4.33%. Just there, noting that.
I saw it.
I don't know how that happened. So if you look like halfway down, then it'll say total general fund expenses. So it gives the 1,178,041 is the current budget, and then the new budget for the general fund only is 1,201,339. So the total general fund went up 23,298, or 1.98% is what it went up. So I guess I should have prefaced this at the beginning. These are expenses only. These have this first spreadsheet has nothing to do with revenues. These are just expenses only for each fund. So then after the general fund, we go into each of the other funds, like road use tax and the employee benefits and the emergency levy. And I just did the same thing, current budget to new budget and how much it increased and the percentage. And obviously, if you see the projects one, that went up obviously the most. It went up 700,000, and we just put that 700,000 in for the wastewater treatment plant for engineering, basically. So that's just one project. What was that, Todd?
How'd you come up with 700,000?
I'll defer to the mayor.
That was an estimate we came up with, talking to McClure. And that would be if we went with the most expensive option, which would be a mechanical plant. So that's what I put in the budget, it could definitely be less than that. But there's $700,000 revenue, $700,000 expenses. So those will essentially cancel out.
By borrowing money.
Yes.
And this is all gonna get spent in the next fiscal year, or the next school year, next, city year?
Yes, yep, to complete that project on time, we'll have to get substantially through design within the next year and a half.
So then continuing on with this spreadsheet, then you have, after you get all through all the funds, you have the total expenses for the current budget, the 3,243,414, compared to now the 3,944,849. So it's an increase of $701,435. Obviously, 700,000 of it was the project. So if you take out the 700, you're only $1,435, difference. So then the last two lines, then I just brought down, so now I did add revenues to this one. The total general fund revenues only is 1,206,120 compared to the total general fund expenses is 1,201,339. So our revenues for the general fund are $4,891 more than our general fund expenses. So that's obviously is what you always want to balance the general fund. You want your revenues to be more than your expenses, which we are by $4,781. And then I just did the same thing with all of the revenues. So this is all funds, and that's $120,272 more than all expenses. The revenues are more. And so that obviously still includes the $700,000 as a revenue for the wastewater treatment plant bond. So the 700,000 equals out, so it doesn't really affect the bottom line. It's a revenue and an expense. The next one in your packet, now I've included all of the revenues for each fund, and that's the middle column, compared to all of the expenses for each fund. So now I'm not doing it by department, I'm just doing it by total fund. So general fund wise, you got that same $4,781 as a net increase. And then if you go down through the rest of them, you see a couple of them that are negative. Like road use tax, we have a large balance in our road use tax fund, so we're trying to spend a little more than we're bringing in to bring that balance down. And if you just go through the rest of them, like down to water and sewer, we're bringing in 67,000 more than we're spending. These are just budgeted, so that's kind of the idea. So the nets down the bottom is that same 120,272. That's the same number from the first page. And then the third one that I've given you guys is kind of some projections on each of these funds. So the July 1 of 19 is the actual balance in that fund. That's a real hard number. But then the next column is the revenues expenses from 19-20 budget. So that's the current budget that we're in right now. So if we brought in every revenue we said we were going to, and we spent every penny we said we were going to, we would increase the general fund by $7,603. And so the next column is I projected that balance for June 30th of 2020 to increase by $7,603. And then did the same thing for the new budget that we're coming into. So that 4,791 is from that very first page again. So I'm increasing the general fund by that much. So then I'm projecting the general fund balance to be $462,074. So I just did that little projection on these funds to show you where we're kind of would be at June 30th of 21. Any questions? Make sense? Okay, so now I know Chris has a slideshow he put together to go along with the budget. Wanna do that now?
Yeah, well,
I had more in the
Yeah.
packet. But this, this I think is the next one I had. I don't know which direction you wanna go.
yeah, some of my stuff's kinda similar to Coley's too.
How do you go? There we go.
So I wanna start out looking at property valuations. This is 100% valuation, so these would be the valuation of all the property in Jessup. You can see, I wanna point out that for this 2021 fiscal year that we're in right now, we're actually looking at property values from January 1st to 2019. You can see we had a 2.9% increase. Some of that's due to new construction, some of it's due to increased assessed values.
I can hit it.
But then the state does this thing that they call a rollback. And this is for each classification property. I think we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. You're only taxed on a percentage of your total assessed value. So the big one this year is residential and multi-residential are decreasing. Last year you were charged on 56.9% of your assessed value. This year it's only a little over 55%. It's almost a 2% decrease. And then multi-residential has been scaling down every year. That's going from 75% to 71.25%. Commercial industrial are staying at 90%. Agriculture jumped up quite a bit. I don't even really understand that, but that's a very small part of our budget in city limits. So then, once you factor in these rollbacks, this is a taxable valuation. This is what we're actually collecting property tax on. And you can see between 2020 and 2021, we're staying almost stagnant, almost the same as we were last year. And the next slide does a
Yeah, so even though
comparison.
the 100% valuation went from 162 to 167, the taxable value stayed the same.
What-
So,
What that rollback does is they try to cap residential growth at 3% across the state. So then if you have a big year, it kind of builds a reserve for lower years, and you can see that in the 100% assessed value, you have 0.9, and then 7.1, and then 1.4. And if you look at the taxable valuations, it kind of balances that out a little bit. I think the disadvantage, and it's not just here in Jessup, I talked to other cities in the area, property taxes must have went up quite a bit throughout the state, so they decreased that rollback, but in this particular area, they haven't. So that, it really kind of hurts us going into our budget this year, when we're really not seeing any growth in our taxable valuation compared to last year. But we have expenses that are going up. Like our union contract right now, the employees get a 2.5% increase. That hasn't been negotiated actually for next fiscal year yet. Health insurance went up 2.8%. Our payment to law center was another one that went up quite a bit this year, and those are things that we really don't have any control over. But we have to try and balance that into no increase in taxable valuation, but we've got these increase in expenses. This is a lot of what Coley showed you. There were just a couple of things that I wanted to point out and some specific line items. Andy had requested $75,000 for his vehicle replacement. We left that the same at $50,000 in the budget the way it's proposed now. I've talked to Andy, and a big problem they have is you're saving money for a vehicle for maybe 30 years, and that money you're putting in year one, 30 years from now, is only worth a fraction of it was when you put it in there. So Andy wanted to step that up, and he's working on updating his equipment schedule. But that's, I think, not necessarily a huge issue for this year talking to Andy, but something that we definitely want to keep in mind in future years. Would you agree with that, Andy?
Yeah, I prematurely I knew 50,000 isn't cutting it anymore when you start looking at what things cost and, inflation, just inflation on equipment. You know, 15,000 of the 50,000 essentially is inflation, and you take that away every year, and then you're back to putting $35,000 away. Well, to try to save up money for a $500,000 truck, that takes a long time. It takes 15 years or whatever. That's only one truck out of the 4 you guys are responsible for. So after kind of looking at this a little closer, and I was running numbers last night too, trying to justify what maybe a more of a true number would be. 60,000 would probably cover it and get you, just say 20 years out on a graduated scale. Or 65,000, or you can consider going to 60,000 with a $1,000 per year increase. Not the 2.5% inflation rate, because that gets wild after all of a sudden in year 16, 18, or whatever you're putting away, now all of a sudden you guys are up to $80,000, $90,000 a year. Well, that's not feasible. If you were to go 60,000 this year, 61,000 next year, 62, it kind of catches up with itself. It gets you there a little bit slower and still helps the numbers work. Just in the big line item, I mean the trucks and things like that, but most of the other stuff, gear, SCBA's, those types of things that have to be replaced every 10 to 15 years. Usually fairly self-supportive on that. We can cover those types of things in a 2 or 3 year gap, either through partnership through the fire association on donated funds, grant funding, and those types of things. And we do have an SCBA replacement fund, so that kind of helps capture that. So on the 75 aspect, I'd say, yeah, that's high. I think a more true revelation would either be across the board 65 right out the bat, because the problem is we've got 2 trucks within a 5-year period that need to be replaced, and all of a sudden you've got a 10 or 12-year limbo. So we're trying to get those trucks more evenly spaced apart, trying to hang on to the next one a little bit longer so that it helps next time somebody has to deal with this. But, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So.
Ambulance kind of moves some numbers around. They're proposing to increase their salaries. They've been kind of behind other departments on salaries, and it's really a pretty moderate increase, I would think. And they also are one of the few departments that are self-supportive. Their revenues, even with the salary increase, will pay for all their expenses. The other one that I mentioned was other public safety. The payment to law center is going up $3,450. I think really this year the departments did an overall pretty good job of trying to keep their budgets about the same or just slightly more. In public works and streets, they budgeted, Rick Brown was a part-time employee and he's retired, I guess you could say. So they are looking at replacing him with a full-time employee, and that is in this budget. We also transferred our street maintenance and salt and sand to road use tax. That helped out the general fund. That kind of balanced out some other small increases in all the other departments. And we have money in the road use fund to pay for that. There's really not much in health and social services. Library, for the new council members, they have their own board and they set up their budget. We don't really have any say in their line items. We can tell them how much they have to spend. Like they budget 160. You know, we could say we'll only give you 155,000, but we can't tell them how to arrange their line items. That is up to their board. They're somewhat independent of the city in those regards. Parks, that increase a lot was for tree removal. There's a lot of, I guess, ash trees that are going to come down. Community and economic development, I increased the economic development line item some to pay for Buchanan County Economic Development Commission's dues and the commercial that the council has authorized. So that is in there to cover both of those. Elections, there's no election this year, so that's going down.
We paid for the commercial in this year's budget. Why is that in there again? Not an annual fee.
we pay for it all up front.
No, as we go.
Well, it goes out a year and a half, so we would be paying for that this year and next year.
Oh, I do what you're saying, I do
Yep.
what you're saying.
So yeah, so it's only part of the cost that the council approved, that would fall in the next fiscal year. I think was around $4,000. Legal services, I decreased 5,000, I think that'll be doable this year. Employee benefits with the ambulance salary increases, that also increases FICA. Street department went up with another full-time employee. The increase for the mayor is IPERS with my salary. And the clerk's group health insurance decreased 5,000. You know why, Cody? It was just
Off the top of my
budgeted
head.
high
Yeah,
the
I
year
think it was
before.
budgeted high the year before, is my guess. Not for sure.
And these are the 4 debts that the city has right now. 3 of them are being paid out of debt service, which is a property tax. The 2011 South Street project, we're taking 50,000 out of debt service. The remainder is being paid with road use tax and water and sewer funds. And then the 2013 6th Street and the 2016 4th, 5th, and Purdy Street are all being paid out of debt service. The emergency services facility is paid out of local option sales tax, so that doesn't have any effect on the property taxes. So this is kind of how our levy breaks out. Did you put that sheet in the council packet?
Yeah, I put the certification page.
So this comes right off the certification page, and it's comparing it between last year and this year. It ends up being about a 1.3% increase in the levy rate. But then if we go to the next slide and start looking with the rollback factored in, since residential and multi-residential are being taxed on a lesser portion of their assessed value, the dollar amounts would be per $100,000 assessed value. This would be what they would pay in city taxes. It's not, doesn't include any of the other entities, but you can see even with that 1.3% increase, the residential and multi-residential will see a decrease in what they're paying to the city for property taxes because of those changes in the rollback. And commercial and industrial will go up 1.3%.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
So this slide kind of compares to the slide that I put in the council packet. He used $100,000 valuation for a home. I used $200,000 as my example of a property tax calculation. So that's why they're a little obviously different. So, yeah, the levy rate is going up a little bit, but the actual property tax that the resident pays is still going down because of that 2% rollback going down, or the rollback going down by 2%.
I guess if anybody has any questions as we're going through this, you can, interrupt me. This kind of just elaborates on what Coley had put in the packet. This would be your general fund balance going back 5 years. And you can see that it's been increasing steadily, but this is the total general fund balance. If we go to the next slide, the bottom on the blue is the unreserved fund. Those are kind of our operating expenses. And then everything else above that are these funds that we set money aside for. You can see the yellow chunk in the middle. That is all for the fire department. A big chunk of that is for the fire truck. And we're looking at spending, a big chunk of that. So you're gonna see a decrease in the overall general fund balance once that truck's paid for. But our general fund operating reserves have been kind of decreasing, and I think Coley would agree, they're about as low as we would want to take them, so
Yeah.
we don't want to dip into those any further.
Back in
How do you
2015,
increase that?
how do you what?
How do you increase that?
Spend less?
Tax more. I'm pretty comfortable with where they are now, and you really need to be able to justify having more than that to increase your taxes to build them up.
What's the rule of thumb?
Yeah, so right now, the general fund reserves are in the, what, $400,000 to $500,000 range? And that's kinda where it should be, cause we've discussed this before and we've said, I think we wanna have like 6 months worth of operating expenses in the general fund. And I think we're pretty close to that, I don't know exactly what that, percentage is, I looked it up before and calculated it. So, obviously back in, 2015, the general fund reserves were up there, what, 700,000? Now we're down to 450 to 500. So, but you also gotta remember, you're taxing people to spend it. Is the whole idea of your general fund is that's why you tax people in order to spend it. So, but you still need money reserved away in your general fund.
You need that safety net, but the state doesn't like it if you go crazy with it and have a bunch of money sitting there that you're taxing people for but not spending.
Well, your expenses on that same sheet show 2021 is $1,201,000. 2021 $1,178,000. We should be closer to 600,000 than to 400,000 if it's 6 months.
Say that again?
Right above the general fund balance, the bar sheet, the bar page is on there. It's got our annual expenses of $1,001,000, $1,062,000, $1,153,000, $1,046,000, $1,178,000, $1,209,000. 50% of those would be closer to 600,000 than the 425 where we're at right now.
Oh, I see what he's saying. Some of that goes into put money into these operational reserves too. So they're not really, they're not,
But they're gonna spend down anyway, just like the fire department's gonna spend down.
yeah,
I mean, there'll be there's look at it here, but there's reserve for the fire, or reserve for the police, for the cop car, for reserve for the ambulance, that's all gonna get spent down. I'm just talking just the blue bar of the whole thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, so the blue bar in the bottom, if you go back to the third slide that I put in your packet that does the projected balances, that blue bar would correlate with the general fund, the very first line of that projected balance one.
What's your projected balance? I
So-
only have one email open at a time here.
June 30th of 2021, I have a projected general fund reserve balance of 462,074
Right.
is what we're projecting.
And what I'm saying is that on that, what Chris has is the expenses of $1,201,000 in 2021.
take half of
So
that.
that's 600,000.
But you,
Look at where our general cash reserve should be at 600,000. I know we're at 7, we spent it down, but should we be at 600,000 instead of the 462 that you're projecting?
I would,
That should be our goal, right, is 600,000.
I see what you're saying, Todd. The only thing that I would add would be that some of these big expenses, we're putting money into these other accounts. So you would deduct those from your operational expenses because we're saving for those separately. That money is already there elsewhere in the budget. So if you-
Right, and those are elsewhere on your bar chart.
yeah, but that 1.2 million, well, say next year we buy a fire truck, we spend $500,000.
Yeah, it's gonna be down 500,000 as a total. Again, I'm just talking just the blue, the bottom gray or blue, whatever color you wanna call it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's gonna be blue. That, we should be working toward getting that to $600,000. To be 50% of our annual expenses based on the chart above. I'm just saying, over the next few years, we should be getting that closer to 600,000. That's one
Do
of
we
the
want to be 50% of our expenses in the general fund
You just
reserve?
said that was rule of thumb, Colby.
No, I said 6 months worth of operating expenses.
Okay, we got operating expenses of $1,200,000 in 2021.
Yeah, that's budgeted. Yeah,
Okay, well, alright, so 50% of that is 600,000. I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that should be our goal, is to get closer to $600,000 cash instead of 462. And, so it takes us 10 years, that should be where we should be at.
And as the city grows, that's going to increase too. So yeah, I don't disagree with you that we may wanna try to gradually work that up.
So next, I'm sorry. Keep working on your spreadsheet.
So this is employee benefits. We've got a pretty healthy balance in there. We're just a little over on our revenues over expenses this year. So on this one, the kind of yellow-green there, that's what Jessup's levy rate's been. It's right around that 1460 to 1480. And then the solid blue line at the top, that's the highest levy rate of any city in Iowa that year. And then the longer dashed one in the middle, that would be the median one. And then the other two represent quartiles, so between the solid blue and the smaller dash, that would be a quarter of cities in Iowa are within that range. And then between the next two lines would be the third quarter, the second quarter below. I don't know if that makes any sense, the way I'm explaining it. But that just kind of gives you an idea where Jessup's at. We're right around that third quartile, and it kind of stayed there.
The bottom third.
Top third, we're right around 75% of cities. About 25% are higher than us, about 75% are lower. Just for perspective, I guess. Oh, there's a lot of information. I went through it kind of quick. Is there any questions that came up out of that, or do you have another sheet you wanted to go through?
we went through that. So I just put in your packet the two certification pages. I put in the new one that we're looking at that gives you the total levy of the 14.61 versus the current budget that we're in is 14.42 for your packet wise. And that breaks it down. I think one of Chris's slides broke that down for every single levy that we have. And then the last one that talks about the levy rate, that was also in Chris's slides that gives the levy rates for the last 5 years or so. And I'll save the next one because that gets into the, if we have any questions, the next one gets into this proposed property tax levy public hearing that we have to do that's before the actual budget. So if anybody's got any questions on the whole budget, let's do that first, I guess.
Or any other department heads have anything they wanna add at this time?
Oh, I thought that was after.
Wow.
Okay,
Wanna move into that?
yeah, I guess.
You can explain it.
So, this is the new resolution and public hearing that we have to do as a city. So we have to pass a max levy resolution, and it only includes these levies. It does not include all of the levies that we levy for. So, like for instance, it does not include the debt service levy, it does not include the library levy that we levy for, and so it's just a piece of our total budget. So we have to publish this public hearing in the newspaper, and then we have to have a public hearing and approve a resolution prior to approving the complete budget resolution. And so this max levy the total for these levies only is the $10.99 levy per $1,000, which is a total of 1.15% increase from the current budget that we're in now. So that's a pretty low levy increase. When we went to the budget workshop, they said there that pretty much most of the cities are over 2%. So with us only being at 1.15%, you know, I guess that's good. And the reason that's only at 1.15% is mainly because our general fund up there, it's only going up $58 for the general fund increase in property taxes that we receive. Normally, that's, you know, $20,000 or something as a general increase, but this year is only $58, so that's why that percentage is low. So, but the bottom line is that we have to approve this at $10.99, but our total overall levy for all of our levies is $14.61. So there is, on the public hearing notice, there is down at the bottom where it says your total tax rate may also include voted general fund levies, debt service levy, capital improvements reserve levy, which we don't have that one, but it does put that little footnote at the bottom of this public hearing notice that has to be published in the newspaper. So if you do read that down there, you'll see that there's more levies that are included in the total budget. But the state come up with this last year, and we have to start doing this year. So this is our first step in approving the budget. And this is a max levy, so you can't go more than this when you approve the full budget, but these can go down. You just can't go more than this. So for the last slides that I put in the council packet, which is right here, so tonight, we're reviewing the budget that we just did, and then we need to set a public hearing date for this max levy. So we need to approve this max levy public hearing, or resolution, on February 17th, is when we need to hold the public hearing and adopt a resolution for this max levy, to get this all done in the correct time. And I don't know if you remember from the last meeting, but we said the deadline's been moved back to March 31st. And so we've kind of worked backwards, and this is the budget stuff we need to approve at each council meeting. Questions?
So when we gonna go over all the line by line items?
You wanna do that? Do you wanna do that at the meeting?
I just soon do it as a work session, I'll be honest with you.
Do we need to go through it line item by line item?
So there's some lines I have some concerns about, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I need some explanations, I guess.
Is that something, and maybe people have the same questions on the same line items, but I guess what I would propose is that if you have questions on line items, to contact Coley and have him explain those, rather than sit here for, 3 hours.
Budget work session. That's how we used to do it.
I know that's how we used to do it. I'm questioning whether we need to do it that way. If the council wants to do it that way, we can, but
I'm more than willing, if anybody wants to come in and sit at my desk and go through line by line, I'm willing to do that. Whether you wanna do that or in a work session, I don't have a problem, explaining line items.
and if all the council members wanna go through it line item by line item, then, definitely we should do that in a work session. But there's a lot of cities that don't sit there and go through the whole budget line item by line item.
I think our goal was we were trying to simplify this whole process maybe a little bit and make it easier. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's,
I understand that, but at the end of the day, as a city council person, I'm responsible for this budget.
yes,
Well,
yes, yep,
so if I have a question, I should be able to get an answer that I'm comfortable with and I understand.
correct.
So
Uh-huh.
line by line item, that's my responsibility. You could talk 1.5% increase and that's all feel good, but maybe we can do things differently where it wouldn't have to be that much. You know, until I get my answers, I don't know that makes sense what we're doing. I'm an old retired banker that I gotta have my debits and credits back, and I gotta understand how my debits and credits work, and if I don't understand how my debits and credits work, I got a problem. You can have any department head there that wants to be there, they should all be there too at the work session, so that they can explain why they came up with this and why they came up with that.
Not that I necessarily want to have another meeting, but I think it'd be good for me, and I think Curtis had the same concerns, just to go through it. It would be a good learning curve for us new guys. I mean, you guys have been through it before, I haven't, so.
I mean, you new guys should be sitting there, what is this, at the very minimum.
Not to interject, but do you really hope anyone has a new council member to go through line by line?
Do you wanna set a work session tonight then?
Yeah, we probably just as well, the problem we're gonna have is, I mean, that's fine with me, I'd be more than happy to come to the meeting and do it. It's the timeline we're gonna have a problem with trying to get everybody, cause.
Well, we gotta have it done by when, Coley?
16th
6.
or 7th?
I have
Public
to,
hearing on the 16th.
17th?
Probably before the 17th.
Yeah.
yeah, I have to publish the public hearing notice on the 5th. So I mean, I have to have that to the,
That won't affect the max
that's for the max levy, right,
Yeah.
That's
right,
Right.
gonna be what it's
Fine.
gonna be.
That, we can't change that anyway, so.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
that's
that's
fine.
That's the max.
that's the max, yep.
Right. Go ahead and do that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Motion on that probably, aren't you?
We're setting the public hearing date for the max levy?
Yeah, I just got ahead of myself there.
Yeah, we'll need a motion and a second for that.
Right.
Are you wanting to set up a work session first?
No, I don't know.
Well,
I want time to go over these line items, not all of them. I want a discussion on.
Denny, do you know when you,
I'm gone, all next week, and I'll be back for that, or let's see, my phone just went dead, so I don't have my calendar. I will be back next Friday, late, and then I'm gone the whole next week. And then the first part of the next week, like that, what was that, the 10th? Was that a Monday?
yes,
Yeah, I'd be available then, and I'd be available again the end of that week. I gotta be at a show, I hope it's Tuesday and Wednesday, but it might be.
Where's your show at?
That was in Des Moines. I got one in Cabo here. That's kind of by Florida down there, that close. And I'm not coming back, and I won't be on the phone, so.
Well, those other meetings on the 10th, is that, do all then, Chris, or?
Yeah, we could do it after that.
Yeah, get it clumped together.
Okay, when do we have to have my issue taken care of, I guess, let's just label it that, be done with it. When do we have to have my questions answered by Colleen?
We have to publish,
Stay happy with the date.
we have to publish the whole hearing notice by March fourth. So the Friday prior to that is what we're looking at, right? Based on what you're thinking?
We have to have it done in February.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have it done in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What, as long as you're not proposing to increase anything,
No.
we can do the public hearing notice, and we can always decrease after that too.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be nice to get it done in February sometime if at all possible, just to get it off the table.
Yep.
But you're gone the week of the 10th, Todd?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm going the 5th through the 12th, and then the 17th to, so it'd have to be the 24th, the week of the 24th of February.
Need a phone, calendar.
I think that last week in February is okay, I think,
Early in the week.
early in the week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine too.
I got an iPhone.
We wanna shoot for the Monday the 24th?
24th.
You wanna throw it in there for a
Sure,
minute?
that'd be great with me.
It'll take a while anyway, thank you.
What time? I would suggest starting before 7.
Yeah. Earlier, I guess, as early as everybody can be here.
One?
What time do you get here, Craig?
I can try.
How about
I
4?
was gonna, Curtis can't be here before 4, I know.
Yeah.
Or would be, that should be fine.
Check with Curtis and Ray and Danny.
So tentatively, we're looking at Monday, February 24th at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Works for me.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
And no more questions on the budget for tonight. We need to set the public hearing date for the property tax max levy. And that would be February 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying nay. The motion passes. Meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, probably been.
Thanks, Colin. See you later. See you guys later.
Thank you.
See ya.